Hey, what's up guys? It's Mark with thebasswizard.com, and in this video I want to talk about strap height. Now, how high or how low should your bass or guitar be? And for me personally, that varies depending on the gig that I'm playing, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the most comfortable position to have it in for me is really high up. The higher the better. When it's this high, I can access all the frets easily. I can play comfortably for a long time because my wrist is in a very natural position, and this is the most comfortable position to play in. And one important thing to note is if you're doing most of your practice sitting down, this is actually how high it is when you're practicing. And I have a chair here to illustrate that. When I'm sitting down and I have the bass just resting on my leg, if I stand up without changing the height that it's at, this is how high it is. Okay, and where a lot of people get stuck is they'll do all of their practice sitting down, so they're essentially practicing like this, and then when they get to the gig, they have their bass or guitar really low, and this feels completely different. There's a lot of stuff that I can play when it's up high, like chords and a lot of the higher frets, that I have a very hard time with when it's this low. Like in the higher frets, it's a lot harder to reach the frets. I have to stretch a lot more. I have to bend my wrist. It's not as easy and as comfortable. So if I do all my practicing like this and then I play like this, I would really struggle for a lot of stuff. Now you may be wondering, if up high is the most comfortable position for me to play in, why don't I just always play like that? And the reason for that is just because of looks. Now, there's a lot of rock and pop gigs that I get hired to play where it doesn't look quote unquote cool to play this high, right? So I have to play this low, and usually that's not a problem because in those gigs, the stuff that I'm playing is pretty simple. There's nothing too technically advanced to where I struggle playing it this low. I'm usually just playing stuff like, right? Just simple stuff like that, and that's fine. And when I play jazz, funk, fusion, or gigs where I'm doing more technically advanced stuff, or if I'm playing a lot of solo arrangements, stuff like that, I usually have it pretty up high because that's the only way that I can play some of that stuff. I just can't play it like this. And one important thing to keep in mind too is if you do all of your practice sitting down, make sure that you also do some practicing standing up if you're going to have your bass or your guitar really low. Because where a lot of guys get stuck is they'll do all of their practice sitting down and then they get to a gig and their bass is really low and it feels completely different. Your arm is in a different position, your wrist is in a different position, and a lot of the higher frets are harder to access. So make sure that you do some of your practicing standing up if you're going to have it strapped really low. Now, you don't have to practice everything standing up. When you're just learning the songs and figuring parts out, you can do that sitting down. But when you're just running through the set to get ready for a gig, make sure you do that standing up so that you play through the set with the actual feel that you're going to have when you're playing the gig. Because I've seen a lot of guys that they'll practice, sitting down and their bass is over here, and they're practicing, they're working hard, they got everything down, and then they get to the gig and it's down here and they struggle. A lot of the stuff that was easy at practice is a lot harder, and they don't realize that it's because they have their bass so low that they're in a completely different position, and a lot of the stuff they were playing is a lot harder. So that's my answer to how high or low you should have your bass or guitar. I hope that helps you guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Check out my website, thebasswizard.com. Sign up for my mailing list, and let's stay in touch.